northern Switzerland. The beautiful town of Aarburg is the capital of the canton of Aargau. On the Ader River, bordering the canton of Solothurn. A small and very historic and very beautiful town. This is Aarburg, and it's an absolutely fabulous part of the world. We've travelled a little bit west from yesterday's conclusion, a little bit of a damp conclusion, but what a sensational race it was. What a sensational finale, and a wonderfully executed finishing kick. Once again from Jonathan Narvaez, his fourth win of the year, his fourth win within the space of about a month. He's just on fire at the moment. Sandro Morisa hanging on from the early break of two to secure that second place behind the flying Ecuadorian. 2 stage wins from 3 for the UAE team XRG squad, and Sandro Morisa congratulating his breakaway companion on another sensational success. No real change overall. Tadej Pogačar still in control of yellow, and he was as happy afterwards about Jonathan Narvaez's victory as indeed the man himself was. So it is that Tadej Pogačar retains a lead of 2 minutes and 50 seconds over his nearest challenger, Richard Carapaz, going into this all-important test against the clock. And after a challenging couple of days, not least, of course, considering the welfare of his partner, Ursula Siegert, after her crash a couple of days ago, very much focused on the job at hand. Tadej Pogačar actually 12th across the line in the big bunch kick behind his teammate yesterday, so seeming very comfortable in the body of the main peloton, and it's a very strong commanding situation on general classification. 250 ahead of Carapaz, further 17 seconds back to Andrea Baggioli. He'll be trying to protect his third place, his podium position, ahead of a gaggle of riders, including the very much on form Mateusz Wacek in the scrap for the podium positions. As the situation, Tadej Pogačar leads overall on points and in the, well, doesn't even the mountains, does he? Because Louis Vervaeke took it yesterday. Best young rider remains Wacek, and the UAE Team Emirates XRG squad continues to dominate the front end of general classification. We'll see whether that prevails today. How many of those riders are going to be interested in this test against the watch? And the start and finish locations now within meters of each other, in actual fact, no more than about 100 meters between the start and the finish, but a long loop around, not too much in the way of elevation, 160 meters across the 23.7 kilometers in total. So a little bit of a ramp, but nothing drastic. It can be quite technical in parts, this particular stage, particularly down at the finish, actually, last couple of corners. Worth considering. A couple of little lumps, but this is basically a flat time trial for the riders on stage 4. It's hot, I can tell you. It's hot in the city, it's hot in the country as well. Temperature 32 degrees Celsius. I just saw some mercury suggesting it was closer to 34 in actual fact. It is very warm indeed, and the riders have been talking about it over the last couple of days. Everybody trying to stay as cool, calm and collected as possible as we race into and out of Aarburg today in the confluence of 2 beautiful rivers. And the riders, they're already underway, I can tell you. The first rider into action, Marco Brenner, is indeed the first rider through to the finish line. He's set the benchmarks. The first rider home, in actual fact. 28 minutes, 19.74 seconds remains, or at least is, the first established time on the board. That's the target for the riders to try and beat. And of course, riders with different agendas, different ambitions today. Some just to ride through this one, protect their legs as best as possible ahead of tomorrow's 5th and final stage, the Queen stage. Others thinking about the potential to try and score a good result today. Maybe, just maybe, give it a bit of a kick. Here's a rider who I think will certainly try. He's the Asian national Asian and national time trial champion. Yevgeny Fedorov, national road and time trial champion, and indeed also the continental road and time trial champion. Yevgeny Fedorov off the start ramp for the Astana squad. So we make way for the expected arrival of Matthew Brennan. Didn't quite work out from yesterday. Unfortunate, really, from his point of view, that they didn't catch the early break. And they couldn't catch a break, really, because he ended up 11th across the line, 9th in the bunch kick, just a matter of millimetres behind Narvaez and Sandro Marisa at the conclusion of yesterday's stage. He'll head towards the start line, as indeed will Menno Heising, his teammates, very shortly. Just 1 minute gaps between the 126 riders still available for duty today. We had a little bit of attrition about yesterday's stage. It was indeed 7 riders in total that were forced to abandon, 1 through to crash, and a lot of riders just finding the pace just a little bit too daunting and demanding in yesterday's 157 kilometre stage. Niels Pollitt, oh, it's a familiar style, isn't it, from the multinational time trial champion of Germany. He's not the reigning national champion. That's Max Schachmann. We'll see him a little bit later in the order. But Niels Pollitt has done great work for the U18 Team Emirates XRG squad. He just managed to sort of put himself where he wasn't wanted, really, in the chase in the closing kilometres yesterday. All's fair in love and war. A little bit of an exchange of views between himself and one of the other riders, but basically Pollitt doing a great job, and Jonathan Narvaez keeping up his end of the bargain by staying clear and then winning that bunch kick to make it 2 victories from 3 for the UAE Team Emirates XRG squad. It's all about team, isn't it? And Tadej Pogačar was thrilled for Narvaez afterwards. He now will focus. He will, of course, be the last man into action, which will be 2 minutes past 5 local time. I can tell you, if you're having to sort of make calculations and work it all out, it's currently 15:30, so 3:30 local time here, and we'll be just a couple of minutes past 5 o'clock. So just smidgen over an hour and a half to the appearance of the yellow jersey and the overall race leader. Well, naturally enough, this man's going to get a little bit of attention. We haven't seen him on camera too much this week, have we, so far? Somewhat surprisingly. Sylvain Dillier, Alpecin Premier Tech rider, former national champion on the road of Switzerland, and a perennial breakaway exponent. He's also a rider who does an awful lot of donkey work on the front of the peloton. We've seen him adopt both roles, haven't we, for this team at Milan San Remo over the last couple of years. Got in the break, and also he's done a lot of chasing work. Now let's pick up on the performance of Emil Herzog through the intermediate point, which is just before the halfway point of the time trial. It's not quite on halfway, but it'll give us a sense of who's performing. Intermediate time to beat is Arthur Kluckers, the Luxembourg rider, 12:53.2, and Herzog goes through there, second fastest, 12:56. So a few seconds leaked, but clearly he's minded to try. At this close to the Tour de France, I'm actually expecting quite a few riders, actually, just to give it a bit of a swing in the time trial bike. You're always interested to know who's got time trial form. Oh, look at this. Well, there's one gone. 8 to go, maybe. Take your life in your hands when you're going in front of a fast-moving Niels Pollitt. We have seen that over the last couple of days, haven't we? That one or two spectators just miscalculating the pace and the speed of riders. It's sometimes difficult to judge, and we don't get a real sense of it always, do we? I think the profile shots that we've been privy to from the motos, and sometimes indeed from the helicopters, give us a much better sense of just how fast these riders get across the tarmac, even when they're riding tempo at sort of 45-50 kilometers an hour. It's just remarkable, and you just have to recalibrate your senses and your expectations of the speed of riders. And I think sometimes the casual viewer and just a spectator might happen upon the race while they're sort of visiting a local region, or indeed are a local resident. They just sometimes don't quite realise, and they just think, well, I'll just walk in front of this cyclist, and boom, they're approaching at a pace relevant and similar to a motor vehicle. Ben Swift at the line. He was third fastest through the intermediate sprint, goes second of those that have recorded a time, not able to unseat Marco Brenner. So Brenner will retain the hot seat for now. I'm not sure if they're deciding to have that occupied. I'm not sure who'd want to be in it, actually, because the hot seat is going to be hot today. That's for sure. They'll have all sorts of fans, access to cold bottles of water. And Ben Swift, the Net Company Ineos veteran now. Rider from Yorkshire originally, bases himself in the Isle of Man, considers himself a Manxman these days, and through to the finish. Now, this is, I think, of the early runners, this is the rider that I'm really looking forward to seeing how he gets on. No surprise to me that he's fastest at the intermediate sprint. Let's bring Arthur Cluckers home, former national time trial champion of Luxembourg. He's the reigning road champion, and Cluckers, big engine on board, and takes a great big chunk off Marco Brenner's time, so that's your new benchmark. Arthur Cluckers for the local team, the Tudor Pro Cycling team. Sponsored by a Swiss timepiece manufacturer, so no doubt all things related to the passage of time are of fascination and interest to that squad. Got Mark Hirschi as well on board, starting the day 23rd overall, 8:34 down. He, I suspect, is a rider that will give it a good old swing to see if he can get in a breakaway tomorrow. Will he be invested today? Narrow, tight roads. I was talking about these yesterday. You know, you're sort of riding along the beautifully smooth tarmac sort of main boulevards in and around Switzerland, in sort of rural Switzerland, and then you just have to take a left or a right. You know, if you see a hill, just take a left or a right, and you come onto these beautiful farm roads. They're very, very narrow, but they're incredibly smooth and beautifully manicured and tended, and it's just very much to the character of the nation. There's the current standings with Brenner, Swift just on a minute back, Grignard and Marco Haller, the Austrian road race specialist, a minute and a half back. The time cut is, as you would expect in a time trial, quite generous, 30%. I suspect a lot of riders are just going to be focusing on trying to stay as cool as possible. Was it Lorenzo Malesi, I think it was, in the Giro d'Italia, who had sort of accidentally left his cool jacket on and then had to ride the whole time trial with it. I wonder how many riders will accidentally forget to take off the cool jacket before their time trial today. Would definitely not be a benefit to the GC and stage contenders. A few riders mightn't be so upset or disappointed about it. Looks like a pretty relaxed situation as the riders wait to make their appearance. Malcolm Mollema and others, plenty of experienced riders about to appear. The likes of Alfonso Lalio, Stefan Kruijswijk, Alex Sigart, not long before he makes his bow on this particular time trial. Just a minute between the riders. Indeed, just a minute between the riders throughout the day. So even, you know, ordinarily in the final 15 riders of a time trial, there would be 2 or sometimes 3 minute gaps between them. But in this particular time trial, it's just a minute between them. So I tell you, from our point of view, in terms of entertainment, it's going to be terrific. You won't know where to look. Remy Ruscha is escorting and sort of indicating the side to pass for Niels Pollitt, but unfortunately Pollitt doesn't quite get on terms through that bend. But Ruscha is mindful, I think, of the likelihood of a time trial specialist going to be catching him. So Ruscha was probably thinking about that catch even before he started the time trial today, and that was a nice bit of acknowledgement and respect for his fellow professional. Former Kazakh national time trial champion Alexei Lutsenko in the still unfamiliar colours of the NSN squad. Off the ramp, former star of Tour de Suisse. And Alexei Lutsenko is, let's see what he can achieve today. Former stage winner, of course. Now, been a funny old week for the Bahrain Victoria squad. I wonder whether they can come up with something a little bit interesting with Alex Sigart, former under-23 European champion. Sylvain Dillier through the intermediate point. Dillier with 7th fastest time at the intermediate point. Niels Pollitt looking pretty quick. and indeed the fastest. Roglič will take his cue from what Niels Pollard is doing, but won't be too concerned about the progress of the big German classics star, because he's just going to measure out his effort as best he can. And there's up over the mountain, such as it is today. Nothing terribly challenging. If you were to measure this particular climb, it's about 800 meters at 4%, so not insignificant. They'll notice it for sure, but you would not in any way, shape, manner or form describe this as even a hilly time trial. There's another little half-kilometre stretch coming up a little bit after this at just over 2%. Alex Segart, well, he'll always have Giro. What a fantastic stage victory that was. And, of course, Grand Prix de Daman. He's having a terrific season. Late-range attacks. He's just got such an engine, and he can sustain impressive power for as much as a kilometre, a couple of kilometres. It's a really superb engine in there. Can he sustain it over 23.7 kilometres today? European Under-23 champion of 2024 in the time trial. All eyes on Alex Segart. For the Bahrain Victorious team, they had a really difficult first day with their GC contenders, Lenny Martinez and Antonio Tiberi, going out the back with the rest of the team pretty much. Martinez defended his position as best as he could during the day, but lost quite a bit of time. I think over 13 minutes on that first day, so kind of had to revise their ambitions since then. But Afonso Elalio, the stage hunting and pink jersey wearing hero of Giro d'Italia, he went on the attack on day 2. And indeed, Elalio came up with a 9th place finish on that occasion. They'll go raiding again in the break tomorrow, I've no doubt. For Segart today, probably their best hope of a significant result. Pat McKell as well, of course, was 9th across the line for Bahrain Victorious in that bunch kick yesterday. Nice sprint performance for him. Just the slim pickings indeed for the sprinters this week. Just one opportunity. It's time trialing today and mountains tomorrow for the sprinters to hone their fitness ahead of battles to come. That's been a characteristic of Tour de Suisse for many a long year, isn't it? That the sprinters, much as they might not like the mountains, but they will often give a full examination of themselves, because they really want to try and build that engine to absolute peak of perfection, knowing what awaits in the Pyrenees and the Alps in July. So the aforementioned Afonso Elalio is off the start ramp and into action. Staged 2nd place, of course, in the Giro. But made up for it, didn't he, with what, 9 days in pink? And, of course, in the Young Riders jersey, yeah. Situation at the finish line. Your fastest rider to have completed the test is Arthur Cluckers, the Luxembourg rider of the Tudor Pro Cycling team. His target time is 27 minutes and 41.48 seconds. Oscar Chamberlain, the young Australian, just over 18 seconds further back.
Hey, Noel.
Tim Wellens just performing the final calisthenics. Everyone has their own routine and their own way of trying to stay as cool as possible. Temperature management, absolutely critical in this race. Doesn't matter what part of the world you come from, riders who are particularly well adapted to the heat are still going to find this one hot. Those that aren't, well, I'm not sure how Tim Wellens gets the heat, but yeah, comes from the Low Countries in northwestern Europe, so Belgian classics man. Might be finding this one a little bit on the hot side. Oops, and that is, we've seen a few riders, particularly in the women's competition, got slightly caught out of that right-hander. Niels Pollitt gone grass tracking for a while. No harm, no foul. Well, I say no harm, might be a bit of harm done to his time. And he's going to got to sort of put that behind him really quickly. Reset, refocus, go again, and just try and get back into his rhythm. That can often just sort of send a rider out of whack a little bit, out of kilter. We'll see how he adapts to that one, but Niels Pollitt just caught out slightly. And the riders will have recce'd this, of course. They'll all have had a look multiple times on Street View and then VeloViewer, etc. And, of course, they've been out on the course today. Just trying to adapt and understand the course in racing conditions. I'm not sure how many opportunities they've had to actually ride it on their bikes, and of course they've been out in the car as well having a look, and that's something to be mindful of. Tricky little right-hander there for Niels Pollitt. Wonder will we see it again, and what other riders? Well, you can be sure as well that the DSs will be taking note of that and giving a little bit of extra intel to their riders. And it's a relatively complicated course. There are plenty of twists and turns along the way. For Alex Segart getting a little bit of attention. No surprise there. Breakthrough year for him. And just has already established his sort of reputation as a late breakaway man. It's victory in Grand Prix de Denain, of course, coming just was it the previous day or just a couple of days? Yeah, I think it's the previous day, wasn't it? Nocre Corse, he went for a late one, didn't work out. Following day, go again. Yep. Happy days. Fended them off by just 2 seconds, and then denied the sprinters once again into Novi Ligure in Giro d'Italia last month, stage 12. Two Nertz leading in a somewhat slimmed down peloton behind. Alex Segart making the best of the conditions and the opportunity. So Herzog through to the finish line. Let's see what he can achieve. Complicated finale, isn't it? The last couple of corners in those last few hundred meters. 18.5 seconds down on Arthur Cluckers. Nonetheless, decent effort. Goes third fastest. Luxembourg rider. Followed by Oscar Chamberlain and Emil Herzog of the early runners. And a little bit of attention for Arthur here. He's enjoying the limelight, such as it is. He'll be staying as cool, calm and collected as he possibly can for as long as he can. Riders in various different modes, aren't they? And some riders just not that stressed about it, looking forward to it. Other riders naturally will be in a zone, in a bubble. They won't want to talk to anyone. That's why they certainly have the helmet on, the visor on. Tim Wellens off the ramp. First appearance of, well, no, we've Niels Pollitt out there, of course, but the UAE Team Emirates XRG. Very often we see that riders from the same team will perform with distinction, you know, that they're sort of well hooked up in terms of management and planning for a stage. Fabian Weiss, the local man, getting a bit of attention here. Well, he might. Just over 40 seconds down on his teammates. Decent effort from Fabian Weiss, goes 5th fastest. 22 riders have completed their test so far of the 126 riders. Stuart Bax is not going to get there in time to unseat Arthur Cluckers. Nonetheless, decent effort, goes 2nd fastest, inside 10 seconds down. And Stuart Bax was a rider I was looking forward to seeing, because he did finish 4th in a Giro d'Italia time trial last month, which was very similar actually, 17 kilometers, pretty much flat with a tiny little lump in the middle of it. Not able to replicate those heroics. We'll see what that translates to at the end of the day. There aren't that many time trial specialists in this field. There are plenty of general classification specialists that will be very, very motivated to see what they can achieve in the time trial. Not the least being, of course, Tadej Pogačar. Richard Carapaz will be trying to further limit his losses and try and fend off the rest of those that would challenge his 2nd place. Bajoli similarly. Vacek, I think, is going to be interesting. Czech national time trial champion. Pickering McNulty, 6th overall. Teammate of Tadej Pogačar and a bit of a time trial specialist. I think he's one to conjure with and to imagine as a potential stage winner today. Ilan van Wilder as well, 7th from last off the time trial ramp today. Belgian rider with the Soudal Quick Step squad. Wellens into action, did a great turn, didn't he, on day 1 to sort of create a scenario for Tadej Pogačar to launch his long-range attack. We thought it was just about turning the screw on the rest of the teams, and I think maybe that was the plan initially, but he set him up very nicely on the hill, stretched out the peloton, caused all sorts of difficulties for many other riders, and then Tadej Pogačar was able to, first of all, claim some bonus seconds at one of the Tissot sprints. With that achieved, had a little look around, realised he had a gap, and off he went like a scalded cat. A mere 5 kilometres from the finish line, almost 75 at that point. That was the last they saw of Tadej Pogačar on day 1. Tim Wellens playing his role. We'll see how invested he is in this particular time trial today. Tim Wellens starting the day, 76th overall, 31 minutes and 26 seconds down. Javier Azparen, that's familiar moustache. Great job done, and that goes to the top of the timesheets. Javier Mikel Azparen, your fastest man, unseats Arthur Cluckers, who doesn't take too much time about vacating the hot seat, does he? Thrilled to be out of it. And it's the pro team squads, the invited teams, the 2nd division outfits that are currently dominating the times. Now Segart arrives into the countryside element of this, in and around the forest roads. Head down. Meanwhile, a little bit closer to the conclusion of the time trial is the man who was fastest through the intermediate split some time ago. Alex Segart, see what he can do about unseating Niels Pollitt from that particular honour, such as it is. There's no points or prizes for it, but the intermediate time is always fascinating. It's Segart that's faster than Niels Pollitt by 9 and a bit seconds. So Segart, as expected, is super motivated in this time trial. And a rider who goes very well indeed in the tests against the watch, although just 16th in the stage 10 time trial against the watch in Giro d'Italia. Did though finish 4th on a stage of Tour of Holland last year. 11th in the opening stage time trial there as well, and 10th in the European Championship among the elites, having of course been the champion of the previous year. Niels Pollitt coming to the line. Azparen wasn't there for long, was he? I don't think he even got to the hot seat. It's Pollitt that goes fastest by 8 seconds. And the times are coming thick and fast now, and that one has set a considerable target, 27-21. Your new fastest time at the finish line.
Ja, also alles andere als irgendwie langweilig. Jetzt schon bei den ersten guten 20 Fahrern wird jede Sekunde gekämpft. Wir haben hier wirklich Sekundenduelle nach diesen 23,7 Kilometer. Die Gesamtdistanz des heutigen
A familiar figure of super motivated Niels Pollitt through to the line. Speeds approaching 50 kilometers an hour. There's every chance I think we could get up to 51, 52. We've got that lift and a lot of technical aspects of this course that are just sort of paring back the potential, the maximum potential. Moraine Vandenberg is the next man off the ramp for the EF Education Easy Post squad. So we get a little look at the River Aire. Longest river that flows entirely within Switzerland. 288 kilometers in total length. That's quite, it's got an unusual story actually. They say the Aare flows backwards in Aarberg. It's one of the most famous natural phenomena is the Aare Vaga, or the Vug, a large whirlpool in the Aare River. Basically the river strikes a rocky outcrop beneath a castle. Part of the water circulates upstream, creating the illusion that the river is flowing backwards. Fascinating stuff. And there's only one topic today, I'll tell you. How warm are you? Sagart through the only significant impediment in terms of climbing. About managing your effort here. Marlon Reusser was chatting after her time trial today and saying that she's only recently, or relatively recently, adopted the use of a power meter in time trials. She used to just ride on field, but just found that sometimes she could overreach and push a bit too hard early on in the time trial, and as a result, you know, when you're sort of full of adrenaline and obviously the legs haven't felt the extent of the effort just yet, and so it's very easy to, oh, that was a sketchy little one, and that held it together really nicely. Good job done by Afonso Lalio there. He's through and up the unyielding steps. Davide Di Preto, a national champion. Wait till you hear this for a welcome. Maro Schmidt, I should say. What am I saying? Maro Schmidt. He's the national champion, of course, in the time trial and the road. I was looking at a different name just momentarily. But he gets a great cheer, and he's a rider that always gives a great account of himself. He's had some significant breakthrough road racing performances in the last couple of years. And Maro Schmidt is off and into action. 26-year-old. The great Cadel Evans Ocean Road Race at the beginning of last season. And had a good ninth place finish in GP Jippingen in the approach to this race. You can sure he's going to embrace a long and positively excellent tradition of Swiss time trialists, and working to his best ability. Wellens is fired up for sure. as he's managed to catch and pass his Minuteman Jorge Arcas, the Movistar rider here. Altogether different body language about the Spanish rider in contrast to the Belgian. Wellens stays in the saddle. Stays 100% focused on just staying on top of the gear. Well, the weekend has arrived and we're in Aarburg. Relatively sleepy little town. It's a small enough population, and it was a town that was pretty much obliterated as a result of a fire in the mid-1800s, including the sort of famous church that I'm sure we're going to see at some stage. Church dedicated to the memory of St. George. And that was burnt down along with half of the northern part of the town in 1840. And it and the church and indeed and the rest of the town had to be rebuilt. It's still very much part of the memory of the town, cultural memory. And that dossard is cocked at a raffish angle, isn't it? Nice attention to detail there for Alex Sigart. It can be hard to put them into those pockets and get them to go in without being sort of sorts of creases, and you can look pretty ungainly and it'll look unkempt a little bit sometimes when they put the dossards into those pockets. But that one looks pretty nice. They've kind of banned, haven't they, the pockets on regular jerseys? They still have to pin them on. I think the timekeepers and the UCI just thought we're finding it a little bit difficult to see them through the opaque pockets sometimes. Depends, of course, on the particular pocket. Let's get a look at this one. Tim Wellens fastest through the intermediate time, and that's significant. Tim Wellens faster than his teammates, faster too than Alex Sigart. So potential big time coming in here for the Belgian star, the former Belgian national time trial star. Plenty of support out there, as indeed there has been all week. Notable about the crowds have been great, haven't they? The weather's been great, apart from yesterday's thunderstorms. Although even with those, I think we really did see the crowds stayed. A little bit of rain at the finish line, and the crowd stayed to the bitter end, didn't they? To see all of that podium ceremony and see their hero Tadej Pogačar introduced to the crowd and to collect his jersey. Tiptoeing through this complicated section of the course. Again, it's a course that demands respect. It's not just about your ability to get out the watts, but you've got to steer your bike, and particularly on these sort of the weighting, I suppose, of the particular aspects of the chassis technology goes into the construction of these carbon fiber time trial bikes. It's sort of weighted towards aerodynamic efficiency rather than handling. Therefore, they can be complicated beasts to keep going through the corners, all right in a straight line. And this is also part of the complication, and great to get that little bit of support and from the team car, from the NSN team cars. He's going to pick up another Minuteman here. Wellens is about to arrive onto the tail of Jan Hirt. Jan Hirt has given a good account of himself in time trials in the past, clearly not today. Keeping out of the way, that's absolutely key. It's a little bit of a Belocchi through to arrive. He was looking at about 7th here. Will he be able to improve on that in the final kilometre? And it's going to be close, and he's managed to hang on to that 7th place, for now at any rate. Just under 41 seconds down on the fast time at the finish line. Niels Pollitt, expecting that potentially that could be challenged by the likes of Alex Sigart. For now, at any rate, Niels Pollitt, popular in this part of the world, and as indeed is this man, Julian Alaphilippe. Pollitt will enjoy that moment of reflection and recovery in the hot seat as Julian Alaphilippe heads off. I wonder how invested he will be. He gave a good old account of himself in last year's final stage time trial. Completely different affair, that one. He was protecting a general classification situation. He finished in the top 10, finished 6th if memory serves. And he, of course, that was a mountain time trial, so it was a very different prospect. I suspect he might be 5th in actual fact. Yeah, 50 finished in last year's Tour de Suisse. Mauro Schmidt is going to see what he can achieve. He was 4th in the Tour de Romandy prologue, was Schmidt, and 6th in the short prologue as well. And those were just time trials of just a smidgen over 3 kilometers, 3.2, 3.6. So different character of an event. The sort of events that often pull in the sprinters often have a go at those ones, don't they, to see what they can achieve. Not that we think of Mauro Schmidt as a sprinter, but it's clearly he's a good prologue rider. Will he be able to come up with a top 10 or maybe even better result in his home national tour? Single test for them. Lalio. Well, I can tell you he was only 30th fastest through the intermediate, so Alfonso Lalio not likely to be a contender for glory today, nonetheless. He'll head down towards the conclusion. The intermediate split, by the way, is at 10.3 kilometers. It's a 23.7 kilometer time trial, so it's a little bit before we get to the halfway point of the test. Tim Wellens is up and through that point, and indeed through the climbing aspect of the test. And absolutely flying. So through that tricky bend that almost caught out his teammate Niels Pollitt, kept it upright. Just had to had recourse to go to the path on the left-hand side, as pretty much all the riders are doing. I think if you probably want to really push on and contest in this time trial, you probably need to do that. Meanwhile, Segart, let's see what his progress is like through the intermediate. Second fastest, 8.52 seconds down on Tim Wellens. UAE man's fired up today because we know Segart is strong, if not the strongest rider. He's a decent tester for sure. And it's almost at an end, the race of truth. They used to say that you need to run out of energy completely about 50 meters from the finish line and then just crawl over, somehow get there. They also used to say you start at 100% and then go faster. I'm not sure that's the approach that's taken these days. Through those final sweepers, Segart giving us a great demonstration of how to handle your bike. On a big push, he's not going to get there in time, or is he? It's going to be really close here for Alex Segart. Oh, and he just misses out 0.07 of a second. Well, that will be further clarified by the timekeepers, but would appear that was close. And Niels Pollitt gets to stay in the hot seat for a little while longer, but Alex Segart gave it a good old swing there. Didn't quite get there. Nonetheless, very strong performance from the Bahrain victorious rider. Well, don't tell him yet. Yeah, it's showing as 0 seconds between them. That'll be sort of recalibrated, but about 0.7 of a second, we think. Over 23.7 kilometers. Comes down to be a significant result that gets you in or out of the top 10 or in or out of the top 5. And he'll be thinking about where he could have gained that 700s. In fairness to Niels Pollitt, he knows that he went grass tracking for a while and probably lost about 2 or 3 seconds there. Picture of power and poise. Tim Wellens won the Tour of Poland time trial a couple of years ago. Last test against the watch put none other than Jonas Vingegaard and Felix Großschartner, his now teammate, well, his then teammate, behind him. The likes of Max Schachmann as well. Oscar Onley also in that top 10. You can do a really, really good test. That was a rampy one. That one sort of, well, it climbed basically 15.4 kilometers, but it was sort of rising all the way to the finish line. This is a different character of a test. I wouldn't be at all surprised if what we're looking at today is certainly a top 10, maybe even better than that. Could be a contender for stage honours today. As other riders await their appearance. Mosca, familiar figure of Jacopo Mosca. He'll be into action in about 4 minutes' time. Meanwhile, we're going to get a look at the green jersey. He's the leader of the King of the Mountains competition, Louis Vervaeke. It doesn't matter who you are, what nation you're from, they'll bang the boards and welcome you into action. And Louis Vervaeke is enjoying his visit to Tour de Suisse. They went raiding in the early break yesterday, managed to hang on to score the maximum haul of 12 points at that first classified climb of the day, Cat 1 hill, and that allowed him to overhaul Tadej Pogačar, move into the lead by right. Of course, he was wearing that Mountains jersey yesterday on behalf of Tadej Pogačar. Now he leads the Mountains competition and will lead it with no points awarded today into tomorrow's final stage. Mara Schmidt, scant margin of a couple of seconds, 2.5 seconds and a bit behind Tim Wellens at the intermediate point. Long way to go. Another 13 kilometers of pain and suffering for Mauro Schmidt, but he will be boosted considerably, I suspect, by the support of the crowd. Now, what about Mathieu? How interested will Mathieu Vanderpool be in this test today? And there's probably a good time trial in him if overall general classification was something that he was looking for. Ordinarily, that's not something that he is, in actual fact, going to explore. Also, Lalio is not going to explore his potential on the time trial bike in any great sense, but nonetheless, decent hit out to get within 2 minutes of Niels Pollitt. Is decent pedal pushing, that's for sure. Just over 29.5 minutes for Portuguese star. His teammate Alex Segart currently second fastest. Vanderpool 6th on a stage of Dauphiné last year, 5th on a stage of Skoda Tour de Luxembourg in 2024. He certainly can do a test if the stars align and the mood is upon him. Mathieu Vanderpool is a very similar time trial, actually, that he was 6th in Criterium du Dauphiné, so in the equivalent stage race, I suppose, or the comparable stage race, same time of year, same role as preparation, so I suspect he might just give this one a little bit of an exploration effort. And that was a very similar type of time trial in terms of the topography, slightly shorter, 17 kilometers, and that one won by Remco Evenepoel, so have to get ahead of him. The ice bike is the fashion accessory du jour, that's for sure. All-important testing rig. All of the bikes will go scrutinized here. A little bit of a traffic jam. There's an out and back element to this course, as you can see. This is the riders heading out, and this is riders close to the conclusion of their effort. For Bauke Mollema, the oldest rider in there, well, he has a pretty low cadence anyway. I think it's probably true to say that he's not fully invested here. Mara Schmidt certainly is. He's hoovering up Minutemen with unseemly haste. That's Magnus Kort, who led in the bunch yesterday for 3rd place. Great piece of sprinting from the Uno X-Man on that occasion. Frustrating for him that he wasn't able to get the victory. Filippo Zanna also couple of impressive days for him. He was up the road the previous day. Filippo Zanna, the Soudal Quick-Step man. Not quite as exercised by this time trial as Mauro Schmidt certainly is, the local man, and wearing the national champions colours, hugely important to him. Quick reminder, if you're just tuning in, this is the fourth and penultimate stage of Tour de Suisse 2026. It's the all-important time trial. And this slightly shorter stage race is going to be completed with potentially the two biggest stages of the week. The time trial followed by the Queen stage tomorrow. A race on a very, very, what you might call challenging to some, epic to others. Villars-sur-Olon, start and finish tomorrow. We'll start on the Col de la Croix, do the last 9 kilometres of it or so, and down and then up twice around that climb, and then up towards the finish in Villars-sur-Olon tomorrow, 150.7 kilometres. Today it's Tim Wellens. He's coming to the line. Let's bring him home. He's going to top spot here. There's no doubt about that. He's going to unseat his teammate. It's going to be a UAE top 2 for now. But it's the Belgian star that gets there over a half a minute faster than Niels Bollet. That's some revving, I have to say. Tim Wellens has earned that little bit of a cold shower from the bidon, and Niels Bollet waves bye-bye to the hot seat. But if he's going to be replaced by anyone, a teammate such as Tim Wellens, well, that won't disappoint him at all, and that is a fabulous performance, and that's going to take some beating today. Tim Wellens, your fastest man in the 27.3 kilometre time trial here on day 4 of Tour de Suisse. Mauro Schmidt, second fastest at the intermediate, by the way, yet to make it home. We'll see what the Swiss champion has got to offer in the final 13 kilometres against Tim Wellens, but it's Wellens that owns it at the moment. Let's pick up on Mauro Schmidt and consider his potential and possibilities. Schmidt just 3.4 seconds down. Has taken a string of important results, big results. Second overall, of course, in the Tour Down Under. He certainly winters well and starts the season flying. As I mentioned, he won the Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road Race at the beginning of last season. And second overall in the Tour Down Under in January. Stage of Tour of Oman. It's a great start to the season. But reset, go again. What's it going to be like? Winner of this national championship in June of last year. He'll be presumably defending this title coming up in the next couple of weeks. Next week, indeed. I'm making that presumption without knowing it for sure, but we will see. Beat Stefan Bissiger to take that title, so by just a single second. So we know that Mauro Schmidt is a world-class time trialist. Now, world-class road racer, Sandro Morise. What a great day out he had yesterday. Not able to get the win, but he probably got as much out of that day as he could possibly have done once he joined up with Jonathan Narvaez and the Pinarello Q36.5 Pro Cycling Team rider. Well, that was an epic performance indeed. Some of them look like they're waiting to go into court. Others look like they're just down in the local cafe hanging out. It's just hard, isn't it, to stay in the mood and stay connected to your thoughts. Weider, how invested will he be? Mauro Schmidt certainly up for this one today. Jaco Alula rider. He's recorded a 5th place in time trial stage of the Vuelta a few years ago as well. A couple of years ago, 2024, it's not that long ago. 6th in that prologue of Santos Tour Down Under, which was the foundation of his bid for general classification. And 4th, as I mentioned, in that Tour de Romandie prologue, behind Jakob Söderqvist and Dorian Godon, big powerful units in the head of, well, the likes of Tadej Pogačar, for instance. Well, Pogačar will certainly prefer a time trial over 23.5 kilometres to one over 3 and a bit kilometres, but nonetheless, Mauro Schmidt's potential for stage honours today. Alexander Vlasov, another rider who can do a decent test on his day. Vlasov, 2nd in the Valenciana time trial at the beginning of the season. Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe squad focusing their attention on supporting the general classification ambitions of Primož Roglič, who's yet to make his appearance in the test. He's 15th overall, 5:26 down, further back than he might like. Wonder how are the legs for Sandro Morisa after yesterday's exploits. What an adventure for him. By the way, the average speed of our fastest man at the finish line, Tim Wellens, they were predicting today that we'd have a fastest time of around about 52 kilometres. Tim Wellens, 52.988 kilometres per hour. If anyone's going to unseat the Belgian, they're going to have to go, well, 53 kilometres an hour or faster. That's basically the basic maths around that one. So going to be a fast test, and maybe just even a little bit faster than we might have expected. There will be faster time trials this year for sure, but it's nonetheless a pretty quick one. Kwiatkowski, well, he was up front for a fair chunk of yesterday as well. And Chris Hamilton's coming to the line. He's not going to be hugely into this one, and Kwiatkowski is he's coming. Yeah, he's 5th fastest, so that's who we want to see. Accompanying us, former World Road Race champion Michał Kwiatkowski, just under 50 seconds behind Tim Wellens. Decent hit out for the Polish star. Mathieu van der Poel won't be wanting for the bike handling on this course. How much time is he spending on his time trial bike of late? And it's just in the act of overhauling his Minuteman. Louis Vervaeke just ahead, the man in the green jersey and green skin suit. Vervaeke enjoying the experience of the extra attention, but not up for this time trial to that extent. Gets the nod from the team car. Here comes Mathieu. And it needs, on a course as technical as this, on narrow roads like this, you need to have that cooperation of your... This is almost a carbon copy of the catch we saw earlier with Remy Rocha. And needs to take a racing line through this one. So not an ideal scenario there for Mathieu van der Poel. Did he lose any time? Not sure he lost anything significant, if anything at all. Probably not. Vervaeke says, yeah, please come and catch me. And he is obliged, of course, to drop back by several bike lengths and stay offset as well. So he needs to be, what is it, about 8 bike lengths and then stay to the left or right, so as not obviously be taking any slipstream benefit from the rider that has caught him. Sort of artificially improve his time. But Vervaeke just over the top of that one. Clearly Mathieu van der Poel made a bit of an effort, so it takes a second, but now puts him behind him. And Vervaeke will sort of politely drop back. It won't take much effort, I think, to do that, the way that Van der Poel is charging along. And then when this road straightens up and widens, well, you'll probably see Van der Poel just disappear into the distance. It's the reality of it. Turn to the intermediate point, and Mathieu van der Poel is very quick indeed. Indeed, this is the fastest time. Look at this. Mathieu van der Poel obliterates the time of Tim Wellens. So huge, huge effort over the first 10 kilometres by Mathieu van der Poel. 11.5 seconds to the good. Can he sustain it through the remaining 13 kilometres? Well, I mentioned there's a great time trial in him. Is this to be the day? Mathieu van der Poel back in action this week. And it was a decent... he can do so much, can't he? And we think of him as a classics man, as a cyclocross specialist in some ways, and as a wonderful classics rider, but he's got so many different strings to his bow. Yesterday, of course, with the departure earlier on the day of Caden Groves, he stepped up as the team sprinter and was 5th across the line. That was 3rd in the bunch kick. Oh, so close effectively to a stage victory. Had they caught the two up front, that would have been very, very close indeed. So he can provide a big bunch sprint when he needs to. He can also, it would appear, do a really decent time trial. Has he got it for 23.5 kilometres? Mauro Schmidt also has a bit in hand. Was fastest at the... no, he was what, a few seconds down. 3 seconds down on Tim Wellens. That will put him effectively 14 and a bit seconds, maybe 15 seconds down on Mathieu van der Poel at the intermediate point. Well, Mauro Schmidt's going to get to the finish line well before Mathieu van der Poel and after Tim Wellens, so he's got that time to chase. The target is not going to be today for Mauro Schmidt in the national champions colours. They're going to take him down into the final few hundred metres. He's lost just a little bit more time in the remaining 13 kilometres of this stage, so it's about honours even, really. If he lost 3.5 kilometres seconds through the first 10k, he'll throw it at the line though. Ultimately 17.5 seconds down, 17.2. That's second fastest at the moment for Mauro Schmidt. Superb effort from the Swiss rider for Jaco Alula. Now the potential threats. Fails to unseat Tim Wellens. Edgy, looking a bit precarious there. They have the data already, probably. So no doubt Mauro Schmidt was being kept abreast of the developments in terms of his progress versus those at the finish line. Now we'll see whether Mathieu van der Poel can potentially push him down to 3rd. Long way to go for Van der Poel. A couple of other times to conjure with. Lenny Martinez will be testing his time trial legs ahead of the Tour de France, despite failing to fire up just as he might have liked on the climbing battle on day 1. Lenny Martinez for the Bahrain Victoria squad, tuning up nicely, 7th fastest at that intermediate point. Quick reminder of the situation at the finish line. It's Tim Wellens luxuriating in the hot seat at the moment. 17.25 seconds faster than the local man Mauro Schmidt. Wellens' teammate Niels Pollitt, 3rd fastest. Alex Zigart, 4th fastest. Xavier Esparin, 5th fastest, just 39 seconds down. Kwiatkowski, Cluckers, Pierre-André Cote, Stuart Bax and Oscar Chamberlain, your top 10. That's set for quite a bit of change. Plenty of big-name riders yet to appear. We're running in reverse order of general classification in time-honoured fashion. And the big names will start to appear. We start our top 10 rundown from 1653 local. It's currently 1626. So the man 10th overall at the moment, Mathieu Riccatello. Right now, this is Andrew Maurice, Pinarello Q36.5 rider. No doubt aware of the presence of the camera behind him. Maybe just we'll get an extra G up from that. Maurice, the Belgian rider, starting 47th overall, just a smidgen under 25 minutes back. Bit of Doppler effect there with the with the bell. Now Alexander Vlasov approaching the intermediate split. Well, he's a little way to go to reach it just yet, but the intermediate best time 12 minutes and 16 seconds. So Alexander Vlasov settling into his effort. Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe squad with Vlasov 45th overall, 24 minutes and 7 seconds down. Has managed a decent time trial or two in the past, as I mentioned. Beginning of the season was second in the Valenciana time trial. It did make, and again, as I said, he was second to Remco Evenepoel, so that's practically first in Class B, isn't it? Against the world champion. Well, Vanderpool's really hooked up here and throwing it at those corners. Back on the skis. His time trial extensions. Molded to the individual requirements of each rider within the official dimensions and parameters as outlined by the UCI regulations. Now Nairo Quintana, 33rd overall for the Colombian veteran. 3rd overall in this race back in 2018. Won a stage then. In a different place now. Long sleeves and gloves are faster. It's warm stuff. For Nairo Quintana. Quintana off and running. No doubt he too will be minded. I mean, never a time trial specialist for sure, but no doubt he'll be minded to at least explore his potential. We keep an eye on him and see whether he's fully up for this time trial. Generally speaking, those riders who climb well and contest for overall honours, albeit so we haven't seen so much GC contesting from Nairo Quintana in recent times. And you sort of always have to have a little asterisk, don't you, around riders who are coming from altitude camps and coming straight into Tour de Suisse. It's a major objective for many riders. It's also a springboard potentially to greater things in July and beyond. So you're not always 100% sure of where people are at. Some riders are coming in with a certain amount of fatigue in the legs, and they'll ride through this one fatigued with the intention of further honing their system. Alaphilippe. Different time trial from this year in Switzerland, but he get a great cheer, and of course he is representing the Tudor Pro cycling team, which is something of a Swiss national professional cycling team these days. And the Frenchman with the Swiss squad breaks the meme, just over 2.25 minutes down. A couple of times coming in lately. Antonio Tiberi at the intermediate point, 5th fastest. Look out to see how he gets on. Let's keep an eye on those Maurice indeed. Oh, running wide there. No matter how committed you are, even those not particularly committed are still traveling at very impressive speeds on these narrow country lanes. Very 5th fastest at the intermediate split. Darren Rafferty, 13th fastest. A minute and a half down at that point. Festival atmosphere, the big tops in town. In Aarburg, we're in north-central Switzerland, very much in the German-speaking part of the nation. We'll head further west tomorrow, where we'll put another babel fish in our ears and Maybe just start to exercise the school French a little bit. Heading towards Villars-sur-Orlon tomorrow. Well, they must be developing a fair bit of electricity in that house, in that dwelling today. It's very sunny, very hot, mid-30s. Nairo Quintana, not by any stretch of the imagination a time trial specialist, but again, anyone who's ever contested in time trials has had to examine their, or at least as an overall contender, has had to examine their potential on the time trial bike. And Quintana, in his time, has certainly done that. Heading towards retirement, of course. He has announced that this is his final season. Fourth in the national championships a couple of years ago was the last time he troubled the scores with the top 10, so I don't think Nairo Quintana is going to be fully in, but it's I think only right and proper that we should sort of pay tribute to a man who's been one of the GC superstars of his era. A little bit of extra attention. Similarly, Mathieu Vanderpool certainly deserves it, whether he's on for the win or not, and he is on for the win today. Mathieu Vanderpool, fastest of all at the intermediate split of those riders that have run to this point. Fully 10.88 seconds faster than the Belgian Tim Wellens, who is the fastest man at the finish line at the moment. Well, he's just got 2 1/3 minutes to get to the finish line to unseat Tim Wellens from here. And 2K to go, so he's going to need, it would appear, something in the order of 55 km/h TT over those last couple of kilometres. I think that's achievable, albeit it is a challenge. There's a few twists and turns in these final couple of kilometres, particularly in the final couple of 100 metres. Well, he's gone 67 km/h right now, so a kilometre a minute for the last 2K would certainly take him faster than Tim Wellens. How much of that pace and speed is he going to be able to sustain as the gradient ripples up and down? It only takes a fraction of a change in the percentage gradient to affect the progress of these riders, but look at this for momentum. And he's absolutely cruising along here. He's in a world of hurt, but look at this for poetry. Under the kite, and he can do a 1:20, 1:19 time trial and still go to fastest spot. He's flying here. Mathieu Vanderpool is heading towards the top spot. He's just got to keep it clean, but he knows he needs as much time as he can possibly gain on some of the very fast specialist riders to come, the likes of Brandon McNulty and, of course, Tadej Pogačar himself. But Mathieu Vanderpool is a contestant for sure for overall success in this time trial. He's down to the final 500 metres, and the Flying Dutchman is absolutely motoring here. Plunging down and now approaching the little twists and turns that will get his attention. And when you hit them at speeds approaching 70 km/h, you're having to scrub off a little bit of speed, pair off that momentum. And there's so little room, and he's run quite wide there, missed his apex by a mile, but maintained a bit of momentum, had to get off the pedals. He's got time in hand, but that was definitely not the ideal ride through that right-hander. It's not going to prevent him from unseating Tim Wellens. He's going to top spot here. Vanderpool by 12 seconds, and that is a stunning time trial performance by the Dutch superstar. Alpecin Premier Tech on for stage honours today. Oh, the relief, but still the pain of it. Can't get that helmet off quick enough. And going to lie on the ground here, and we'll give him a moment to gather his thoughts. And he seems to be recovering. I mean, it's not quite Amstel Gold win, is it? But let's get a look at this right-hander. Just carrying huge amount of momentum, sort of almost riding the riding the boards there. And of course, he's going into a combination, so you can sort of give up the first one, because it's not like you need to maintain a whole lot of momentum through that bend. It's through the next one that you need to get your line absolutely perfectly. So in many ways, I think there's very little that he's lost there. Maximize the straight in the approach to a combination of corners is always the rule, isn't it? And then it's the second or third through that combination. Those are the ones that you need to make sure you've regained the maximum momentum. That was thrilling. Absolutely fabulous performance there from Mathieu van der Poel. Trying to time indeed to take on what you've achieved. Potentially time trial victory. Who can beat him today? Well, we've got Max Finfisher Black. That would be a remarkable achievement. Max Schachmann is out there, national champion of Germany. Felix Großschartner is a decent tester for the UAEs. We're always interested to see how the UAE riders are going to get on. Tobias Foss as well, the fast Norwegian national time trial champion. Matthias Vacek, Tadej Pogačar, and as I mentioned, Brandon McNulty. And I think it's going to get a lot of attention, maybe almost as much as this man. Hirschi. They're so much noisier, aren't they, the free wheels on modern bikes, and particularly with a carbon disc rear wheel. It sort of echoes through. It sort of tends to project the sound to a greater extent. But of course, the free wheels as well these days, they have a sort of a ratchet system, different to the old pawls that we came to know and love until they ended up on the ground in the dirt, and you had to clean them all again and try and shovel them back in. At any rate, they tend to have loads of different ratchets in there, and they're much noisier. You almost don't need a bell on your bike anymore. You just need to freewheel to warn people of your approach. Not going to be an issue here for Mark Hirschi. They're all going to know he's coming and want to see him. Slightly rickety arrival off that. I mean, it's a steep ramp onto cobbles. And of course, you're not. They always describe the person that's sending you on and in there as the pusher, but they're the starter, and they're supposed to just let go, and you're supposed to sort of create the momentum. Let's get a look at Sandro Marisa just getting through the complications in a slightly unique fashion. We saw Mathieu van der Poel absolutely charging through that one. It is a difficult section. They'll all have recce'd it and had a look and tried to work out exactly how to approach it. They'd have had multiple looks on the bike, but also in the car. Well, especially those that were really up for it. Sandro Marisa, I can tell you, was 18th fastest at the intermediate, so by no means shabby his pace, albeit unlikely to challenge Mathieu van der Poel for top spot today. Roger Adria. Good performance from him yesterday. He was thereabouts in the sprint. I think I have the results here somewhere, but yeah, Roger Adria it was who... Well, actually, top 20, 18th, but the best of the Movistar riders, so maybe not quite what he would have hoped for. We were expecting to see Orluis Aular thereabouts. Now, Alexander Vlasov towards the back end of the anguish and agony that is the single individual time trial of Tour de Suisse 2026. For the Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe rider, form is starting to leave him a little bit. The shoulders rocking, the head nodding, waggling side to side. Mostly, I mean, you can accept a certain amount of that without it having a huge impact on your speed. Mostly it's about it staying in the perfect tuck, getting that head absolutely buried into your shoulders. Physically, it's a painful thing to do. And you just want to direct all of your attention towards getting the power into the pedals, but I mean, it's a compromise. It's a compromised position to get into the perfect tuck. Few people here getting into the perfect tuck for their little swan dives. A few red bellies there, I'm sure. Enric Mas. I think these conditions were going to make everyone feel a little bit hot and bothered, hot under the collar, but maybe a little bit less so for Enric Mas compared to others. Now the Austrian former national time trial champion. Oh no, he's the reigning, isn't he? Reigning champion. There's another one. Felix Grossschartner for the UAE Team Emirates XRG squad. Wearing the stripes with pride. Grossschartner starting the day 20th overall. Seven minutes and 21 seconds down on his teammate. Tadej Pogačar now. Morisa is... yeah, not going to go to top spot. We saw him 18th fastest through the... he's on target perhaps for 13th fastest here. That's what the projection is on our timing screens. Morisa picking up his minute man. So Roger Adria put behind him and just he's got a bit of a kick to the line, so he stayed discreetly out of the way, but just needs to ride it to the line, and Morisa does something similar for 15th fastest ultimately. That's well, yeah, will it be 13th or will he manage to hang on? Now we bring Morisa home with the others arriving in queue. Schachmann home, 17th fastest, and Morisa 18th fastest for him. Make that 19th. They're coming home thick and fast. A little bit of a recalibration, a recalculation of the time. 19th fastest ultimately for the Belgian superstar of yesterday, Xander Morisa, but he'll always have that beautiful second place. Fred Wright goes fourth. Young Briton on scene by the cameras. Really tough logistically, of course, for the organisers and for the TV bosses here, with 126 riders and just a minute between all of them. It's tough to pick out exactly which riders you're going to be able to deploy your resources in terms of motorcycles or the helicopter up above. They have a little bit of a plan at the start of the day. Oh, it hurts. But it's done for Xander Morisa. And for Fred Wright as well, yeah. Now we bring Alexander Vlasov. Is this going to be a top 10 run for the Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe rider? Out of the saddle. He's given this a swing today. It's not quite going to be in the top 10. And he's got plenty of fast riders yet to come, but top 20 on offer maybe for Alexander Vlasov today. Couple of times coming in, fourth fastest for Finn Fisher-Black at the intermediate points, and we'll keep an eye out on the New Zealander from the Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe squad. So Vlasov is through and completed. Finn Fisher-Black though, 12:33, fourth fastest, about 17 seconds slower than Mathieu van der Poel to that point. Probably worth having a look at the current standings at the finish line. Well, Matthew's made it. Looks like he's ready for the beach. Hot work. Van der Poel 12 and a bit seconds faster than Tim Wellens. Mara Schmidt at 29 seconds. So Finn Fisher-Black, great shot at a top three for now at any rate. The young New Zealander who's out on course. New Zealand national time trial champion. Here's the church dedicated to the memory of St. George, they tell me. One burnt down in the 1800s and they rebuilt it in Even finer glory. And a little bit of string, by the way, in case it falls off, which happens more often than you might think. Means you're less likely to lose it. Well, they'll tuck it up as best they can as well, make sure it's not an aerodynamic impediment. Now, Primož Roglič, 15th overall, not where we wanted to be at the start of the week. But still, he's honing his form. Vuelta in prospect for the Slovenian veteran, making his debut in Tour de Suisse this year. And Primož Roglič into action. 4-time winner of Vuelta a España, and of course the overall winner of the Giro d'Italia in 2023. 8th in the opening prologue of Tour Romandy, and 4th in Basque Country earlier on this year, so he's certainly still got it against the watch. Watch out for the time of Primož Roglič today. See whether his form is coming. Now, decent effort here from Sander de Pestel, the decathlon CMA CGM rider. Breaks the beam at 10 kilometers, less than 15 seconds down on Mathieu Vanderpool. A way to go, but decent effort, and that's as we expected. Things are going to change fast. So we get down into the final 15 runners off the start ramp. Next to appear. Well, Mikel Landa's just into action. Tej Benoot shortly to make his bow as we consider what's possible today for Primož Roglič. The smooth progress of a rider who is a fine exponent of the special art, the subtle art of the race of truth. Won the Giro stage, of course, against the watch back in 2023 on Course for Glory. That, though, was a ramp up to Monte Lusari. This, a flat road, more or less. Slightly less to his taste, you suspect. A few lumps and bumps wouldn't go amiss. But Roglič, 4th place in the Basque Country time trial at the beginning of the year. That was behind Paul Sexas, Kevin Vauquelin, and Felix Großschartner, who's already into action for the UAE team Emirates XRG squad. So a couple of good names in front of him. Willem van Wilder, 1 position behind, and just a single second behind. Willem van Wilder will arrive into action, 7th from last rider into action, 7th overall. Well, Gregoire warming up, others trying to cool down even before it starts. Tobias Foss wearing the colours with pride. Norwegian national time trial champion with the Net Company Ineos squad. In good form this week. 11th overall. Slightly stronger position overall compared to his teammate Andrew August, who's 17th and what, about a minute and a half behind Tobias Foss at the moment. Foss starting the day 5 minutes and 12 seconds down. Foss is about 2 minutes and 5 seconds off the podium. Could see a bit of a revolution in GC today. I suppose if we're looking at expectations and looking to be sort of, I mean, it would be a major shock if Tadej Pogačar were not still leading this time trial, leading the bike race overall after this time trial. However, we could see quite the reshuffling of the pack behind him. And Tobias Foss with a great shout of moving into the top 10. He's good against the watch, and he's in a team that has been particularly good at this discipline in recent years. Off the ramp and into action is Tobias Foss, and it's cluttered at the finish line. A little bit of traffic here for Finn Fisher-Black as he rides through to a conclusion. Emil Verstringe caught for a minute, and Finn Fisher-Black is going to the line. 4th at the intermediate, remains 4th fastest. Just over half a minute down on Mathieu Vanderpool. Solid effort there from the New Zealand time trial champion. The picture of contorted agony. He went up for the sprint yesterday as well, did Finn Fisher-Black, just in the top 10. Yeah, 10th across the line yesterday, so make that 8th in the bunch sprint. Behind the breakaway duo. Finn Fisher-Black, his torture is complete for today at any rate. His teammate Primož Roglič still out on the course. Bringing that body down to a manageable core temperature as quickly as possible after this is also, no doubt, a major part of the recovery process. Now let's take on board Primož Roglič. Of course, as I mentioned, they have welcomed the arrival of Remco Evenepoel, the World Time Trial champion, in recent months, and no doubt they'll benefit from his particular approach and understanding and the extra attention that goes into the time trialing. And Primož Roglič, it's not like he's any slouch against the watch. Third on the Tour de France stage time trial last year behind Tadej Pogačar and Jonas Vingegaard. That, though, big ramp up to Pere Good, a climby one. Behind the GC superstars, but ahead of his teammate on that occasion, Florian Lipovitz. It was an unusual time, Tour de France with the two of them, wasn't it? Interesting and very tactical approaches. And he had the likes of Luke Platt, Matteo Jorgensen and the rest. As though a very different calibre of a time trial. Different start list and a different character of a stage. Not sure what that chainring is, but huge, I think, is probably the... I'm not sure how many, the number of teeth on board. Again, we can't say it often enough, but the real reason for the big chainring is not so much to ensure that they have an enormous top gear, but in actual fact to make sure they have the perfect chain line. They spend as much time as possible in the middle of the cassette. And that gives you just the perfect angle, reduces any sort of extra resistance that might be created by a specific angle up towards the top of the block or down the bottom. And of course it helps to route that chain through a slightly less aggressive route through the chain ring and then around the jockey wheels at the back through that cage. Keep it as smooth as possible. That's why those chain rings and indeed the jockey wheels have become so enormous, just to reduce the levels of friction generated by using much smaller wheels, smaller sprockets. Grosschartner's quick today. Not quite as fast as Mathieu van der Poel, but within 8 seconds of the Dutch superstar. And the UAE Team Emirates XRG squad, remember, have Brandon McNulty and Tadej Pogačar to come. So Mathieu van der Poel looks pretty comfortable in the hot seat, but maybe not feeling quite as comfortable in the knowledge of just the calibre of rider yet to come, including this man. Tobias Foss, as I've mentioned, the Netcompany Ineos squad are really collectively strong against the watch. And Brandon McNulty is, it would appear, almost into action. A little way to go before we see Brandon McNulty. About 2 minutes to the arrival of the rider starting 6th overall. Yeah, no, 1 minute. He should be, almost off the ramp at this point, Brandon McNulty. Meanwhile, Tobias Foss, 11th overall, Norwegian champion, is out and well into his effort at this point. What will be revealed by the stopwatch today? It's a cruel judge, but it's the only one that matters. Tobias Foss. Company Ineos, of course, have the advantage of the Pinarello squad, and they've got none other than the big man himself, of course, Filippo Ganna, winner of the time trial recent Giro d'Italia and winner of so many time trials in recent years. And indeed, several riders in that squad that would see themselves as specialists. So this is sort of a collective willingness to investigate your ability. Josh Tarling as well, part of that, not part of the start list here, but of course part of that lineup. Now Brandon McNulty, who as we've mentioned is part of a great collective as well with the U8 Team Emirates XRG squad, the American rider, off and into action. Primoz Roglič, it's almost leisurely and languid his style, but it is, I can tell you, a hugely focused and committed effort here. Sometimes your eyes can deceive you. These riders can mask the pain with an almost serene ability to maintain a position, a physically tortuous position. And all you want to do is sit upright and focus all the attention into the pedals. Mateusz Vacek, 4th overall. Is often into action. We missed Finlay Pickering, but he's also 1 minute ahead starting this time trial. Mateusz Vacek up and running. Starting the day 4th overall, and Vacek at a remove of 4 minutes and 16 seconds from Tadej Pogačar. 1:09 to get to 3rd, which is Andrea Bajoli. Ken Vacek, the national champion of Czech Republic, and on great form, I think is a rider to conjure with today. Quintana through to complete. Over 3 minutes in arrears, never going to be a threat in this one, but they'll give him a welcome arrival here at the finish line in Aalborg today. Colombian veteran, former podium finisher overall in Tour de Suisse, and enjoying a final moment in the sun, a penultimate moment in the sun, you might say, in the Swiss sun. Well, that one done. We'll see Bart Lemon at some stage as well. He's currently 16th overall. Let's focus our attention on Primoz Roglič through to the intermediate point. He's leaked a bit of time on Mathieu Vanderpool. Not entirely surprising, really. That was an excellent time. World-class time, I think, recorded by Mathieu Vanderpool. At the finish line, your fastest man. At the intermediate sprint, the fastest man. For Primoz Roglič, top 10 at the moment. A few fast ones to come. Starting the day 15th overall. Is there an opportunity for him to move into the top 10 today, and indeed in tomorrow's final stage? He'll have a little bit of space. Well, there's only 2 riders left to start this time trial. Your second place man, Richard Carapaz, off the start ramp. Feeling strong or feeling vulnerable? Well, only he knows, the man from Ecuador. 2 minutes 50 down on Primoz Roglič, but a scant matter of 17 seconds ahead of Andrea Bajoli. And this man, the only man yet left to start this test, is the man they've all come to see, Tadej Pogačar, resplendent in yellow. Well, the overall race leader has had some good time trial performances today, this year. 6th in the prologue, the short prologue at Romandy. Again, just 3 and a bit kilometers, that one, so not a particularly long test. 4th in last year's World Championships in the hills around Kigali. 1st in a time trial of Tour de France last year. That also, of course, challenging terrain. Listen to that for a cheer. Come on, they've come to see the biggest star in world cycling, Tadej Pogačar, into action. Slovenian superstar settles into an effort to defend his 2 minutes and 50 seconds lead overall. Maybe, just maybe, put a little bit of extra salt into the wounds endured by those riders. And Mathieu Vanderpool will know that that man is as much a threat as anyone to his potential as a stage winner today against the watch. He's won 8 time trials in his career, has Tadej Pogačar. De Pestel looked good at the intermediate split. Lost a bit of time on the way home. It is a longer route home, if you will. It's 13 kilometers in the second part of this time trial as opposed to 10 to the intermediate. So De Pestel, nonetheless, great effort. What about that? Third fastest, less than half a minute down. Just 27 seconds down for Sander De Pestel. That one came in under the radar, but it's Belgians second and third behind the Dutchman, Mathieu Vanderpool at the moment, and the decathlon rider producing stellar test, unseating Mauro Schmidt from a podium position, pushing Fisher Black and the others further back.
Mehrfacher Etappensieger bei der Tour de France, beim Giro, bei der Vuelta, mehrfacher Etappensieger bei Weltmeisterschaften.
Sander De Pestel, 14 seconds down at the intermediate, translated to 27 seconds down at the finish line. So that was actually a really good second part of the time trial. Didn't lose quite as much time relative. Michael Matthews, let's bring him home. If this was a 3K time trial, I'm sure he would have given it a go. Went up for the sprint yesterday, but great to see him back in action. Didn't quite get the win he might have liked yesterday. 8th in yesterday's time trial, and gives it a little bit of a swing through to the finish line. And that's 7th fastest. He's a fabulous time trialist. Over just a few kilometers is the Australian rider, and clearly was invested in that as well as he hones his form. Tour de France and his prospects as well. Voss within 11 seconds of Mathieu Vanderpool at the intermediate. That's a terrific effort by Tobias Voss. Can he sustain it through the second part of this test? Well, Tobias Voss is getting a little bit of shade from the trees. That'll be welcome in these conditions. 29-year-old Norwegian. Former winner, of course, of the World Championship in the individual time trial back in 2022 up at Wollongong in Australia. Primož Roglič. What's the mood like? What are the feelings like? Took a win in the Basque Country in 2024. That victory in the Giro in 2023 as well. He's won a number of time trials in his career, but not so many lately. Here's a man who's won a few time trials as well. Brandon McNulty. 6 wins, I make it, in races against the watch in his career, including 2 at national championship level. So 2 national championships plus 4 pro wins, you might say. He's an ace tester in a team that's really well organised for time trialing, and Brandon McNulty will be up for this today. Mateusz Vacek. In that jersey of leading young rider. National time trial champion of the Czech Republic, but wearing a classification skin suit today. As well he might. He's had control of that one since the early stages of this race. Looked particularly good on day 2, didn't he? Only man able to go with and contribute and indeed help Tadej Pogačar in their efforts to overhaul the early break. Didn't quite get there. But nonetheless, it was a terrific effort and a signal, I think, of really exceptional form for the Lidl Trackman. 6th on day 2, 5th, of course, in the big climbing effort on day 1 as well. with a pretty healthy advantage in that young rider classification. Mark Hirschi through to the finish line in the top 20 for the Swiss climber. Decent effort here from Hirschi. Not a specialist discipline for him. As I say, it goes to 31st. Yeah, I thought it was actually showing a little bit further up, but nonetheless, committed effort there for Mark Hirschi. As leading Swiss rider is, of course, still the preserve of Mauro Schmidt, who sits 4th fastest at the moment at the finish line, just a smidgen under 30 seconds slower than Mathieu van der Poel. Vacek quite quickly overhauls Finlay Pickering, for whom this is uncharted territory, really. Can Pickering manage to limit his losses through this time trial? It's quite early, really, to be overhauled by Vacek. I can tell you we're expecting Felix Großschartner at the intermediate point pretty soon. Looking like he could be, at the finish line, and looking like he's going to preserve his 3rd place. Brandon McNulty's at the intermediate, only 5th fastest, 13.6. Is he going to negative split this one to glory today? 13.6 seconds, a lot to gain in just 23.7 kilometers. And we haven't seen too many significant gains in the second half of the time trial. Mostly it's sort of preserve the situation. Großschartner through to the finish line. Looking like 3rd fastest here for Großschartner, with faster riders potentially to come, but nonetheless a very impressive effort. And for Mathieu van der Poel, that's one significant threat put behind him by almost 27 seconds.
Vanderpool, Wellens, Großschartner. 500 für einen Großschartner und der Pestel von der Position 3.
So Großschartner pushes Sander de Pestel behind. Still the Netherlands in the top spot. Alps in Premier Tech, represented by Mathieu van der Poel. And Tadej Pogačar, what of the overall race leader? Settling into that comfortably uncomfortable level of effort that has so often produced significant glory. Vacek looking good here. This is a very, very impressive time. Look at this one here from Matthias Vacek through the intermediate split. First rider in a while to go even close to Mathieu van der Poel, and he's actually faster by 4.3 seconds. And that was a really, really quick start to the test. Overholds Finlay Pickering for a minute. Well, almost in the blink of an eye. It's a bit of an exaggeration, but that was a really quick catch. Pickering will be up for this time trial, albeit not a specialist. And Van der Poel watching with interest and fascination, and I suspect no little concern as he sees a really strong start to the test for Matthias Vacek. Can he sustain it? Andrea Baggioli next to the intermediate split, and we're not expecting huge things from the Italian rider, protecting his 3rd place on the podium. Baggioli will keep you abreast of the times as they come through to us on our time screen here at the finish line, but Baggioli starting the day 3rd overall at about 1:09 seconds advantage over Matthias Vacek, and we know Vacek is absolutely horsing along. Andrew August is having a bit of a jour sang. He just didn't totally go for it, but not likely to be particularly quick time from the young American rider. in contrast to Tobias Foss's teammate, who's the GC hope for the Netcompany Ineos squad, and a hope for a decent result in this time trial today. Vacek fastest. Here's Baggioli, as I said, not looking really all that impressive. So Baggioli's hopes of retaining a podium position looking a little bit less likely right now. What a fabulous day out he had on the first day in Sondrio. Seems a while ago now. On home roads, finishing third. And the Lidl Trek rider has hung on to third for the last couple of days, but now time trial not particularly to his liking, it would appear. Roglič catches another one. Bart Lemon caught for a minute there. Lemon starting the day 16th, one position behind Roglič. And Lemon not quite the best placed Visma Lease bike rider. That accolade goes to Wilco Kelderman, the Dutch veteran. His 8th overall starting the day. Haven't heard too much. He was 34th fastest at the intermediate, was Kelderman. Let's get a look at this one. Pogačar's right with Vacek. Not quite as fast though. Or is he? He is by 0.7 of a second. And that's incredibly tight. Tadej Pogačar and Matej Vacek, well, they went raiding together on day 2. And there's 2 really strong performances in the first 10 and a bit kilometres. The overall race leader. In touch with the very best, indeed faster than the very best. Now, can both these riders sustain it? Situation at the intermediates was Tadej Pogačar just fractions of a second faster than Matej Vacek, and just a smidgen under 5 seconds faster than Mathieu Vanderpool. The rest kind of nowhere. Well, Felix Roschartner 13.28. Wellens further back. Brandon McNulty further back than we might have expected as well. Just at the intermediate, McNulty showing 7th fastest. Tobias Foss 6th fastest. Wellens, who's home, 5th at that point. Let's bring Primož Roglič home. Hasn't been a great day for him so far, but that's not bad. 8th fastest, and just, well, hasn't been a great race for him so far, but that's not bad, I should say. 8th fastest for the veteran Slovenian. Just under 38 seconds down. And a great shot of nudging the outer reaches of the top 10 overall after this one today, with more climbing opportunities to come. So the form is building nicely for Primož Roglič. Fastest man on the road. And there's Richard Carapaz. Well, Carapaz hopes of limiting his losses. Well, looking like a tough day out. Looking, I suppose, as if this one is going to form and expectation. Carapaz looked terrific on day 1, I have to say. Unable to sort of trade blows with Primož Roglič for much of the final 40 kilometres, but this is just not, this is just such a different thing. They're on a completely different bike, a completely different position. Some riders take to it like a duck to water. Whereas others take it like a duck to a desert expedition. Roglič home, his fellow countryman and pre-event favourite, justifying all expectations. Just the one stage win so far this week. Could he double up? Shot at a treble, of course, in tomorrow's big climbing extravaganza in and around Villars-sur-Olon. The Côte de la Croix. He's won 8 TTs in his career, including 3 national titles, so 5 other major pro victories, including 4 Tour de France time trials and 1 Giro d'Italia time trial wins. He saves it for the big occasion, the big stage. Tadej Pogačar traditionally puts time into his GC rivals. There are very few that are able to gain a bit here and there. Vacek was in 2 minds there, and he's not the first. That has proved to be a bend that there are various different interpretations on the best and the fastest way around it. Nudging 70k an hour here, and you need to be. Brandon McNulty, that's I mean, it's great to get that image from the motorcycle, isn't it? I mean, it's sensational. You look at this relatively low cadence, perfectly languid style from Brandon McNulty, and you might think that he's riding along at 45 kilometers an hour. Instead, it's close to 70. What about this moment for Tadej Pogačar, catching the second place man, Richard Carapaz, and putting him behind him for a minute. Starting the day 250 ahead of Carapaz. He's 350 ahead and counting. Speaking of counting, let's count him down. Let's bring Tobias Foss across the bridge and into the final couple of 100 metres. He's not quite going to unseat Mathieu van der Poel. That was a pretty good second half of the time trial here for Tobias Foss. He's going to go close. And Tobias Foss heading to the line here. Is he going to hang on to a top 5 position? Indeed he does. It's better than that. Second fastest for Tobias Foss, 6 seconds, and that was a terrific second half of the time trial there for Tobias Foss, because he was a little bit slower at the intermediate, but just definitely negative split of that one. Very nicely indeed. 6th fastest at the intermediate, 16 seconds down. Second fastest at the finish line, just 6 seconds down. So net 10-second gain on Mathieu van der Poel in the second part of this time trial. So riders can lose a bit, gain a bit. That's the first sort of real signal that negative splitting this one can have huge benefits. I mean, the term negative split, it's just to manage your resources just as best you can, and don't go absolutely flat out in the first half of the time trial and try and pour all the coal into the second half. A bit of a blunt instrument to describe it in such simple terms. Generally speaking, the best riders and the most detailed analysis and projections and planning into these time trials tends to be around. They'll have this divided up into various different sections, way more than just 2 of them. And very often the short drags are where it gets. They put an awful lot of effort into those. Try and recoup a little bit of power on the descents, knowing they'll maintain momentum. And the detail analysis goes way beyond my ken, but suffice it to say, an awful lot of expertise goes into it. Tadej Pogačar has access to all of that. That's a beautiful route through that left-hander. And we saw Mateusz Wachek in all sorts of trouble there, 6s and 7s. We saw Louis Vervaeke earlier on having to vault across that little bit of road furniture, the central median. But Tadej Pogačar picks out an absolutely perfect line. There's a little bit of extra runoff through the bus stop, and off he goes on his way. And a backward glance. Cruising to glory today. Well, we've seen from Tobias Foss that it's possible to gain chunks on Mathieu van der Poel, who still sits in the hot seat, feeling vulnerable now. Tobias Foss second fastest. Tim Wellens pushed back to 3rd at 12 and a bit seconds, 12.1. Felix Grossschartner 4th fastest. Sander de Pestel still the standout outlying performance in 5th place for the decathlon rider. Mara Schmidt, Finn Fisher-Black, Fred Wright, Primož Roglič 9th. Michael Matthews currently in the top 10. Harburg to Harburg, he's on the way home. Still a way to go for our final rider into action as Mathieu van der Poel seems relaxed, whatever the potential outcome here. I'd love to get a time trial victory, I'm quite sure of that. According to my stats, his last victory in a UCI time trial was in the junior ranks back in 2013, when he was pretty much destroying all the records at that time. Mathieu van der Poel beat Mads Pedersen and Sam Oomen. Whatever happened to those guys? That was in Switzerland, so wouldn't it be fascinating if his first victory as a pro? Let me just see if I can confirm that, but just trawling through the stats, this guy have it. It would be a maiden time trial success today, were it to be achieved. He won't be counting any chickens right now, though, because this man is on the hunt, as indeed is this man. Both of these riders faster than the fastest man at the finish line. Vacek has looked on absolutely flying form this week. He'll be looking forward to the climbs to come tomorrow. And the Czech rider, delighted to have an opportunity to display his ability. Out of that Lidl Trek outfit. Yes, they've got Skelmoza and the likes of Ayuso and others. Rare day in the sun. Brandon McNulty, third fastest. Sorry, yeah, he's a little bit down on that one. He was, what was he, seventh fastest through the intermediate point last time we heard. That remains the case. And Brandon McNulty expected at the finish line. A few riders to come behind him, but could be a top 5 performance here. Not going to unseat Mathieu van der Poel, but nonetheless another very impressive time trial performance here from Brandon McNulty, the United States, former national time trial champion. Throws it at the line. Ultimately loses a bit of time actually in the final kilometre. 7th fastest and just a smidgen over 30 seconds down. Half a minute traded to Mathieu van der Poel today. And Brandon McNulty's teammate Tadej Pogačar will, it likely seems, be the final rider to finish. I don't think he's going to catch Bagioli for 2 minutes on the day. That would be a major shock and a major disappointment to Andrea Bagioli, but tough day for Richard Carapaz, so I wonder what sort of time he's ultimately going to leak to his other GC contenders. And everyone out to sea, just down to the final 4 riders on the road at this point. Vacek within 500 metres. Next man to finish now. Is it going to unseat? Oh, he's got 500 metres to get to, sorry, 19 seconds. He's not going to get there. Well, he was absolutely flying at the intermediate split. But this, I don't think, is it going to be enough? 9 seconds to 200 metres, that's not going to be enough, I don't think, for Mateusz Vacek, to say the least. And he is, unfortunately, going to drop behind Mathieu van der Poel. And this was a major threat to Van der Poel's hopes of glory today, but it's a nonetheless really strong time trial performance from Mateusz Vacek. He goes third fastest, just over 10 seconds behind Mathieu van der Poel. Ultimately lost, what, about 16 seconds. 17 seconds to Mathieu van der Poel in the final 13 kilometres. Has something similar happened to this man? Tadej Pogačar and Mateusz Vacek were almost locked on time, just only fractions of a second between them through the intermediate split. But the only stopwatch that counts is the one at the finish line. And he's chasing the time of 26 minutes and 38 seconds to take stage honours today. Approaching 2K to go. Been nice to see the clock continue to run there. Finlay Pickering's coming home, not quite what he would have hoped. Top 60 is not really where the young Briton was at starting the day. Pickering to the line, and he was 5th overall starting the day. 441 down overall, 134 down on 3rd place Bagioli. Bagioli also struggling a little bit against the watch, but we'll see what the final shake-up is. But certainly Finlay Pickering will put this one behind him and go looking for the mountains again tomorrow. Pogačar now coming to the kite. Remember, the target time is 26:38, and he's in, it's going to be close. It's going to be really close. So he needs to do a flying kilometre in about 1:05, 65 seconds with a couple of twists and turns. That's nip and tuck. It's basically, he needs to be well north of 60 kilometres an hour at this point, which we have seen from Mathieu van der Poel, and then needs not to pair off too much time over the bridge and into that right-hander, followed by the other right-hander that takes him up to the finish line. So he'll be gaining time on Mathieu van der Poel, but well, this is going to be really, really tight. Baggioli is close to the finish line as well. They're all going to come in a big rush, actually. The top three riders, Carapaz and Baggioli. Baggioli coming through. Not quite as much time leaked as Carapaz, I think, today, but he's through and completes 40th fastest. Carapaz, something similar. Now down to this right-hander, tricky right-hander. We saw that Mathieu van der Poel almost up on the boards in that one. He's got 10 seconds to get to the line. It could be close. This is going to be really close. Will Tadej Pogačar get there to unseat Mathieu van der Poel? He's throwing it at the line. It's going to be fractions of a second. Yes, he's done it. Oh, it's a cruel disappointment for Mathieu van der Poel. And delight unbound once again for Tadej Pogačar. He does it by just 0.3 of a second. How close was that? There was a near perfect second half of the time trial by Mathieu van der Poel. But still, Tadej Pogačar had just about enough in hand. Oh, the frustration. A first professional time trial win eludes him by just 31 hundredths of a second. That is just how close, and that's what it means to Mathieu van der Poel. But all herald, Tadej Pogačar, another stage victory, 2 from 4, and an extended advantage at the head of general classification. The flying Slovenian has done it again. It's a 9th career time trial success. And that was absolutely epic. What another thriller. Well, 4 stages, 4 cliffhangers. Well, the first stage wasn't a cliffhanger, but it was certainly entertaining and lots of attacking racing. But it's been really, really close stuff in each of the stages since then. Every stage entertaining. What variety we've had in Tour de Suisse 2026. And what about that? For a close run thing for Tadej Pogačar. He's put lots and lots of time into his rivals. And he's gained a major time trial success to boot. Oh, I feel your pain, Matthew. That was close. And maybe, just maybe, it comes down to that right-hander, actually, with the 300 metres to go. It seems a little unfair, actually. There must have been a million different elements out the road, a million different ways that they put the power into the pedals just to take it down to one single corner. And indeed, as I said, he did bring an awful lot of momentum through that first right-hander before the final right-hander. And that's it. There is the tail of the stopwatch. Tadej Pogačar gets the victory on stage 4 by a scant single-second margin over Mathieu van der Poel. Tobias Foss, great third-place finish for the Netcompany Ineos rider. Vacek 4th, and he'll enhance his situation ahead of Wellens, Grosschartner, De Pestel. Standout performance from the Belgian. Maris Schmidt, great performance too from the Swiss rider. McNulty and Finn Fisher-Black also enhancing their reputations with 9th and 10th. Ultimately, the top 10 riders covered by 37 seconds. Pretty close time trial throughout. Lots of really strong testing performances there. And lots of celebration amongst the Slovenians. They got what they came to see today. Victory for Tadej. Decent result too for Primož Roglič, 12th on the day, 37.8 seconds down on his fellow countryman. Fred Wright, 11th. There's the situation overall. That's what it's done to it. Richard Carapaz hangs on to second. Now 4 minutes and 22 seconds down. Vacek is up and onto the podium ahead of Baggioli by about, 19 seconds. McNulty up to 5th, but he'll have team duties tomorrow for Tadej Pogačar. Tobias Foss, good shot for the Norwegian rider as he sits well inside the top 10. Ilan van Wilder hangs on in the top 10 in 7th place. Kelderman maintains his position, and Primož Roglič up to 9th ahead of Matthew Riccatello, who's seen the pack shuffle around him, but he maintains his position in 10th. So Luke Maguire is there to assist and support Tadej Pogačar. The UAE team Emirates XRG rider gets set for the familiar routine, and Matthias Vacek joins them in the cool down tent. Tough to cool down after that one. Hot work and a hot finale. And it's another important success in his career, and his voracious appetite, his hunger, his drive to secure stage honours. Well, it's a remarkable thing, and Tadej Pogačar put together a really neat test. Be interesting to get his thoughts on the way that he structured his time trial. He's faster than Vanderpool through the first 10 kilometres. But in the second section, that 13-kilometre section, included the little lumpy climb. Albeit not exactly a mountain, but that was traded a bit of time to his Dutch rival. The net result, though, 26 minutes, 37.99 seconds.
So, für die, die vorher schon mit dabei waren.
Well, we're going to let Tadej go through the process of preparing for tomorrow's final stage with a little bit of a cool down. Then we'll hear from our stage winner and our race leader overall. Then we'll have podium presentation to come. Let's reflect. Superb day of time trialing. Race against the watch. Mathieu Vanderpool, one of the earlier starters today. Not by any means the earliest, but starting the day 53rd overall. But it was a sensational time at the intermediate at that point in the test, in the starting order. And we knew he was on for this one. Spotted an opportunity. Form is good. Coming off the camp into the closing moments. Top spot was pretty much guaranteed at this point, but would it be enough to secure stage honours? Tim Wellens vanquished. And then it was all about waiting to find out what the GC riders could achieve. Tobias Foss looking for an opportunity to step into the top 10, the Norwegian champion. I can tell you the official timekeepers here at the finish line are recording a time saying that Mathieu Vanderpool was ultimately 4 seconds slower than. So we saw 0.3 of a second at the finish line. So we'll see what is translated and decided when we get the official results. But at this point in the process, Vanderpool secure in top spots. 6 and a bit seconds faster. So I wonder if Vanderpool's time was slightly miscalculated. We'll see what's going to transpire. Official timekeeper's right beside me here at my commentary position, by the way, so I won't talk to them now because they're certainly busy. Hasn't been, am I? But we'll find out a little bit after the stage whether there's just a little bit of recalibration. It matters not. It hasn't changed the standings at all. And then, last man into action, Tadej Pogačar. Only Mateusz Vacek relatively close to Tadej Pogačar at the intermediate point. 0.7 of a second between them. Vacek on a flyer. And it came down to a bike throw here. At the end up. Oh, just 0.3 of a second. 0.31, 3100ths. They're going to have to start timing down to 1,000th of a second, I think, when it gets that close. 27 whatever kilometres. Well, let's hear from Tadej Pogačar, get his thoughts on another great victory.
Tadej, what a great performance today. Very close call. Congrats. How was it today?
Yeah, it was really hot out there and really fast parcours. And yeah, I felt great. Good legs. And yeah, I didn't know that I'm fighting for the win. I just want to give it all. I knew I was close, but yeah, the last after intermediate point, I didn't know any times more. So yeah, I was just trying to go all out to the finish, and yeah, I managed to do it well, and I'm super happy to take the win.
It's already your second stage win here at the Tour de Suisse. How do you like the Tour so far?
Yeah, it's okay. It's a great race, and yeah, I'm happy to take the second win, and tomorrow, the last day, we fight for another one.
Yeah, speaking of tomorrow, final stage, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, it's a brutal stage, I think, completely different than what we had the last few days. So, looking really forward to see the legs in the mountains, how they are. Today was flat TT. Tomorrow, one of the biggest mountain stages ever. So, I'm really excited to see where I am.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's certainly contrast in stages from this absolutely key general classification appointment, near pan-flat time trial, to a really tough mountain assault tomorrow. Final moments, didn't know exactly, but he knew that I suppose he had to push all the way to the line. He knew that he had potential stage-winning situation from the intermediate split. Glory fleur for Slovenia once again. Sally Schlussi. Very nice restaurant in there, they tell me. They built a restaurant in 1870. Castle ruins date from around 1260, but the restaurant's a much newer addition. It's only about 150 years old. We'll have the victory ceremony to you, by the way. It'll take a few minutes before we gather up our riders, really. They've got to go through that process of preparing. I mean, it's the riders that we're going to see are the riders that are most invested in what's going to happen tomorrow. So to maximise their preparation, knowing that their rivals are similarly also working through a very specific regimen and process of cooling the body, such as it is on a day like this, 34 degrees heat. But just preparing the body as well, just to make sure that it's switched on to the right extent, make sure they get the nutrients in to aid the recovery, and then get to the hotel, get the massage, get the dinner in, get a good night's sleep, and go and do it again tomorrow. Relatively late starts, of course, in this week for the men's race. It's early starts for the women. Few people mumbling and grumbling about it, but I think for the most part everyone thinks ultimately it's been a great Tour de Suisse in terms of the visibility of the event and the visibility of the event in Switzerland to the local municipalities and towns and villages and cities that it's visiting along the way, and also in world terms. It's one of the biggest World Tour events in the world. It's the biggest one this weekend. River Aare. There's a couple of rivers actually kind of converge in this town, Aarburg. The Vigor River as well, and the Aare River. We saw them split, didn't we, and converge a little earlier on in some of the images presented to us. plenty of settlements actually have been through the millennia. They've been sort of at that particular confluence of the two rivers, an excellent sort of place for trading and transport routes.
Ja, und diese Zeit sei ihm gegönnt. Ist immer noch auf der Rolle.
He's definitely swelled the crowd size this week. The arrival of the man for whom, or indeed for many, is the greatest of all time. Certainly, I think, the greatest of his generation. Of that, there's not a whole lot of argument at the moment. So he's going to be able to enhance his reputation in France. Well, he's already enhanced his reputation with his performance in Switzerland. Just has to get through tomorrow's mountain assault, but any sort of little blip will be severely polished on a final day parkour. It's by no means a flat road and a victory lap. Tomorrow's stage could be an opportunity for Pogačar to demonstrate his dominance over the field. You'd never know. It'd be an opportunity for someone to make a bit of a name for themselves and carve a little bit of narrow the gap or narrow the deficit, which sits at, let's see if I can pull up the stats here.
20 Sekunden hinter dem Podium. Brennan McNulty, der wird seinen Kapitän beschützen und ihm helfen. Der ist aus der Mannschaft von Pogačar auf Position 5. Dann haben wir Tobias Voss, 5,19, Ian van Wilder, 5,34, Wilco Kelderman, 5,51 und Primož Roglič mit 6 Minuten. Das sind also 3, 4, 5 Mannschaften, die haben morgen die Chance, noch etwas zu bewegen, das Podium zu attackieren, und aufgrund des Profils der Strecke ist morgen gar nichts vorhersehbar. Morgen ist also wirklich...
There's that Reformed Church of Arberg that I mentioned, Castle Chapel, dedicated to St. George. It's one there since the 1200s, and then that one, you know, they knocked it down, built another one. Then that one burnt down in 1840. Reduced the town pretty much to rubble and ashes, the church too. Then between 1842 and 1845 a new building was constructed according to specific plans by Johann Jakob Heimlicher of Basel. And there's the Arberg fortress that sits behind it, a massive fortification. It's been there since the early 12th century in various different forms. And what you're looking at there is fundamentally dates to sort of between 1659 and 1673. And since 1893, that fortress has housed the Cantonal Youth Detention Centre, which it says here enforces protective measures under juvenile criminal law. So it's a borstal. Kind of imposing, kind of scary. You're not going to escape from that one too quickly. Well, the Alt Wartburg that you're looking at there is the ruins of a hilltop castle. It's in the municipality of Ochtringen. We're about here in Aargau. Aarburg, the canton of Aargau. It's 632 metres above sea level there. Well, I'm told we're about 2 minutes away from the start of our victory ceremony, so don't go away. Enjoy these wonderful scenes in and around the beautiful town of Aalborg today. I can tell you the crowd for the most part, hung around as well after a couple of great helpings of stage race action today. That's a bit of land art. Silhouetted against the sky. Simple, beautifully manicured, presented place of worship that is. I wonder, is that part of a community somehow centred on one of these old castles? Ten to 6, you can see the old clock. I mean, you would expect that in Switzerland, wouldn't you? The clock on the old St. George's Church there. It's pretty much Swiss timepiece accurate. Reformed Church of Aalborg, to give it its official title. So we are just on 10 to 6 local time here in Switzerland, and the victory ceremony, I believe, is within seconds of starting. Scenes of the patient bike fans waiting for the arrival of their heroes. That's the finish line very shortly. Great old festival atmosphere here, as indeed it has been in every town so far this week. It's a wonderful sort of community feel about this race. It's not too big and it's not too small. And there's huge crowds out, and yet somehow it manages to feel close and parochial. And, yeah, there's a community feel. That's got to be the word.
Ein Mann, der einfach die Festspiele, die Festspiele weiterführt bei der Tour de Suisse in diesem Jahr und dann 10. Entscheidung holte sie den Etappensieg. So, Standing Ovation hinter der Bühne, Standing Ovation vor der Bühne. In Bälde geht der Daumen hoch, dann haben wir den Etappensieg. It'll be a standing ovation. Don't think any seats are thereabouts, but they'd be standing anyway. Here he comes. Okay, ihr seid bereit. Jetzt feiern wir den großartigen und zollen ihm Respekt. Für den Etappensieg hier beim Einzelzeitfahren. Hier kommt Tadej! They know the routine. Second time this week. I won't call it a dominant performance when you win by just 0.3 of a second.
But suffice it to say, that was an exceptional performance by Tadej Pogačar today. An average speed of 53.392 kilometers per hour. He delivers his second stage victory of the week. For Pogačar, it's a season that just keeps on producing superlatives. An 11th victory of the season. He's only done 15 days of racing. Remarkable return rate, way in excess of any other rider in world cycling. And he's not a sprinter. There it goes again. The news up today, Pogačar has taken the win on stage 4, ahead of Mathieu Vanderpool by, well, it wasn't even a second, 0.3 of a second. Tobias Foss giving a great account of himself. Top 3 performance from the former world champion. Vacek, Wellens, Grosschartner, De Pestel, great day for him. Mauro Schmidt, McNulty and Fisher Black all in the top 10, with reasons to feel relatively cheerful about the day. They're all up for it. It's not the same crowd every day, but it's the same response. And an enhanced advantage on general classification. He's fully 4 minutes and 22 seconds clear of Richard Carapaz, who defended second just about, but was never even able to sustain the or bring the fight to Tadej Pogačar, as indeed we expected. Carapaz not a specialist on the time trial bike. There's the gap between them, 4:22. Vacek now within 5 seconds of second place, ahead of Bajoli, who stays within 19 seconds of Vacek and maybe has thoughts of regaining a podium position tomorrow. McNulty will surely dedicate his fundamental efforts to defending Tadej Pogačar's overall race lead tomorrow. It's another stage win. So inevitably, no change in the points. 2 stage wins, and now he moves clear of the man he was level with. Romain Gregoire will have an opportunity to wear this jersey tomorrow, but it's Tadej Pogačar that's going to be, I think, pretty much impossible to unseat. He's all but won this points classification. Gregoire would have to go on the break, win tomorrow's stage, and maybe win the intermediate sprint along the way, which could potentially happen. And stranger things have happened than that. But at any rate, it's a relatively minor prize for a rider of his caliber. The Lidl blue leader's jersey in the points classification on the shoulders of the overall race leader, Tadej Pogačar. There's the specific numbers. It's a 12-point advantage, 12 points on the line at the finish line. And as I say, an intermediate sprint along the way as well. So still not mathematically certain for Tadej Pogačar. Well, there's never any question that this particular jersey was going to stay on the shoulders of Matej Vacek after his wonderful 4th place result in the time trial. Vacek's put a little bit more time into Matthew Riccatello. He stays 10th overall. Vacek is up and onto the podium, and there's now 2 minutes and 16 seconds between them. So that's a near 2 minute gain, actually, by Vacek today. Flying form of the little Trek man is he's enjoying his visit to Switzerland, of that we can be quite sure. Here's the situation with Finlay Pickering, now 3rd in that competition. He lost a bit of time today, didn't he? Tough old day for the Briton. Andrew August as well. Vacek with hopes of overall podium and hopes of a green jersey tomorrow. Louis Vervac is going to have to go in the break tomorrow. It won't necessarily be easy to get in that one. I suspect they start on a mountain, but he's got a day in green on the final day and has a racer's chance of carrying home the Green Mountains classification jersey at the end of the week in Switzerland. Louis Vervac. few points ahead of Tadej Pogačar, who, should he take glory tomorrow, and who'd rule it out, could potentially take 3 classifications, all 3 that he's eligible for in this Tour de Suisse. Well, the Tissot time kilometre today, there were no bonus seconds to be offered towards general classification, but there is a watch to be collected on the podium. Fastest through the specific measured time, which I think is the start and the finish line, basically. So it's Tadej Pogačar that wins the watch. So I don't think it's any great surprise who the rider of the day is going to be. Pretty much got to win the stage to get it, and he's done it 2nd time this week. He's practically joining in with the chant himself at this point. He's got the old champagne-coloured dossard to wear tomorrow, and a little bit of bubbly to distribute. 0 alcohol, 0% of course. In tomorrow's in the bus. Enjoy it tonight. Just one stage remaining now. It's the Queen stage. Smidgen over 150 kilometres, not the longest stage this week, not the longest stage in their career, but this is a really, really tough mountain assault. Out of the start, and they're climbing immediately. Going to be a really grippy beginning to the day and a big fight. 4 kilometres up to the top of Col de la Croix at 9%, then they plunge down twice up that big mountain again, and then up to ultimately the finish line. Along the way, of course, we've got to distribute bonus seconds at the Tissot sprint. They've also got the Lidl sprint, and then that final ramp up to Col de la Croix. It's loops tomorrow in and around Villars-sur-Orlon. A really tough day in prospect. Are we going to see changes on general classification? Plenty to be decided. That's coming tomorrow. Let's remind ourselves of the TikTok day in stage 4. That's it. 4 days down, 1 to go. Pogačar Imperious, thanks for being with us. My name is Declan Quigley. On behalf of all of the crew here, thanks for watching our broadcast. We'll be back for more great action from Tour de Suisse tomorrow. But for now, from everyone here, it's goodbye.